Now, it is transfer deadline day and there is a lot going on, but Newcastle look to secure their second striker of the summer, being Yoane Wissa, which has obviously been a signing in the making for a very long time. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about exactly why he brings something different to the team and why he could be a great signing and just what you can expect. So let's get into it. Now, Yoane Wissa to Newcastle is not really a surprise to anyone been following this for over the last couple of weeks, even months at this point. Now, I will say the £55 million fee for someone that is about to turn 29 in a couple of days' time is extortionate, but ultimately Newcastle didn't really have an option in given the fact it's late in the market and Isak is literally about to sell, and also he is kind of that perfect player that they want within the team, which I think can work quite well. Now, first of all, when looking at this Newcastle side, they are playing this kind of 4-3-3 setup with two main wingers that are very important to the team. Now, you would think in a normal starting aspect for them, they would have Gordon and Elanga, but Elanga hasn't necessarily fit in so far. But I actually think Wissa will work with someone like Elanga a lot more than some other players out there, so it could be even more incentive to bring him in. Now, obviously, Woltemade is the main signing, and we had a whole video about him the other day, so please go and watch that if you want to see more about that player in particular. But obviously, if Woltemade comes out and Wissa comes in, you would see him as that kind of backup striker, especially with it looking like Osulu is going to leave to go to Frankfurt. Now, this is obviously a player that is very experienced within the Premier League. He's played a lot of games, he's been very efficient, and despite not being the tallest player, he has been known specifically for his brilliant box work. He's very efficient within the box, but also his great link-up play, which can be a major point. Now, something I do think that will be really important straight away is when Elanga and Gordon do get into these areas, and you see it quite a lot, you see Livramento and even Trippier sometimes work so that they can try and get their two wingers in big ultimate good positions to cross the ball in or even have a shot. On this side, you're going to see Gordon come here, Livramento come here, and then on this side, you're going to see Elanga like here and Trippier here. Mostly that's how the dynamics work, because Gordon likes shooting from this sort of range anyway, and Livramento's a great player, but if Livramento's a player on the other side, then he could also do that. We know how great he is in both fullbacks. Now, to look at Vissa's impact, you have to look at this heat map here from last season. You can see it's in the midfield and very far into the front goal. Now, straight away, I want to mention that this build-up play from him is vitally important. He is a very good player from these deeper areas and just kind of shifting the ball along and being that extra man. In terms of an extra presser, he comes out of nowhere and nicks the ball off people in these positions, but he's also someone that can work really well off players a lot more centrally to go off 1-2s. Now, I actually expect this to work really well with their midfield, because Newcastle's midfield do have a very aggressive approach and move a lot. I mean, especially Tonali and Guimaraes, in terms of attacking sense, are always running up and down the pitch. Joelinton does as well, but I still think defensively it's probably worthwhile him doing that more. Now, what I expect this to happen is Wissa can come in and locate these sort of areas, and Bruno Guimaraes can make these runs going forward. And I think there's ways that they can have a little triangles with these three, maybe even a fullback coming in, and work off each other where they consistently keep moving to try and get Wissa in as that late runner. And obviously you expect Wissa to be able to do that in these sort of areas with the wingers like Gordon if he comes inside a lot more. Now, where this gets interesting is that Wissa is a very, very big build-up player and a really good player at working off players. Now, I do think the idea of Woltemade and Wissa playing together is definitely not far-fetched. There was always them rumours about Newcastle wanting to play two strikers up front with Ekitike and Isak, and I think this can be that sort of method they still use. Now, in this sense, you would probably move more into a 4-4-2. I'm not exactly sure who they would play in the 4-4-2. Do you want to keep this midfield going? In my opinion, you probably do something like this, as much as Elanga hasn't been the best, I know, to start. And the reason why I would like to do this, and I think it's a really good point, is that Wissa can get into these areas, he can come deeper. You can always have Woltemade be deeper for the physical headers if you go long, like header-wise, but if you go long on the floor and work it really well in this midfield, Wissa should be that guy, and Woltemade can run it in behind, of course, to do that impact. Now, I actually think something that's really important is when Wissa picks the ball up in these locations here, and maybe even a bit deeper here, and when he receives the ball, he can take it on his chest or take the ball down and then instantly shift that ball out through the space. Now, this instantly is going to make Elanga way better. We've seen Vissa's connection with Mbeumo on this side being very big for Brentford over years, and Elanga likes this space. He needs this space to run into to get into these areas to create. And I do want to show some clips, obviously, to back up my point. And this is kind of where Brentford, they play a very low blocky system last year, but also to a spring attack, which I don't necessarily think Newcastle are going to do to a T, but I do think there's ways that they can can definitely sit deeper now with this player in. And you can get Wissa, he's a brawler. He really is a physical player despite his height in these areas and will physically go against people. And when he wins the ball back in these areas, you skip a little bit further forward and he's able to just shift that ball quickly into Mbeumo, who's always running in behind. You know, Mbeumo's touches, and you look at where he picked the ball up last year, wasn't basically anywhere in this third of the pitch. It wasn't anywhere around it. It was all in the final third, and it's because of these runs. And I think you definitely want to use Elanga in that way personally, because I don't think his deeper build-up is what you want. But there's also other emotions about this, though. We mentioned the fact that this will come deeper and help people go through, but I want to see interchange between him and Woltemade if they are to play up front. Like, I want Woltemade to come deeper sometimes to be able to head the ball on, and then Wissa to work off that, because for ages Brentford have played this quite direct approach as well, where they go to their strikers and try to head the ball on as well, and this is the guy that runs off after that. You know, he is very good in these areas of getting into the box, and you look, if we skip it here, he's a very, very good finisher. You look at most of his goals and they come from even intelligent movement in behind the defender, but all intelligent movement within the box. You know, he can shift both ways, he's very nifty, and is very efficient at getting the space in there. He's very good in short moments. And we talk about it here, he's just gambling on this player that he's going to go and make this pass through, and he always makes that run in behind. And every single time he's in these positions, you expect him to kind of finish it because he is so prolific in this moment. And he's a quick player, he loves working off people on the break. You know, we talk about Elanga getting them break opportunities. Well, now he's got a striker that will always gamble at least and get into the area to help him one-on-one. And ultimately, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I think in terms of the financial part of this deal, it's kind of crazy. But like I said, I actually think for a player perspective, this makes complete sense. And when I saw the rumours months ago, I was like, yes, I understand that. He's going to be ready-made. He's going to be brilliant right now. And if Woltemade takes a couple of weeks, a couple of months to get involved and get kind of used to the game, you can just play Wissa up front by himself and then eventually move into a 2 system, hopefully when they develop off each other a bit more. Now, obviously, that will change the wingers and stuff like that and probably mean you go to a 2 midfield instead of a 3. But I actually think with Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, if they are the two that are going to play there, they move around enough where I think it's not as big as an issue as some other teams who have a 2 midfield. Now, this is a crazy day, so let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I appreciate you guys as always. See you in the next one.